Hey guys, I made an earlier video on 7 different foods you should absolutely never eat. And I'm putting a link to that video in the description below, so make sure you check that out. But today I wanted to do the opposite. I want to go over 8 different foods that you should be eating every single day. So the first thing I have here is whole wheat bread or brown rice or something that has a whole grain. Now I know this topic has been a little confusing because there's so many people that are saying that you should just avoid all carbs, avoid all grains, avoid all bread at all costs because it's not natural in our diet. Well, it's actually not true because grains have been in our diet for tens of thousands of years. Now, I will agree on one point. Refined grains and refined carbohydrates you should definitely avoid. Those are definitely terrible for you. And those refined grains are going to be what puts you at a higher risk for getting things like obesity and having a ton of inflammation in your body, which can cause other diseases too. But whole grains are different. And there's a ton of studies showing the different benefits you get when you add these whole grains to your diet. Now, what is the difference between a whole grain and a refined grain? So grains actually have 3 different parts. So on the outside, you have the bran. And this is basically the hard coating or the hard shell on the outside, and it has a lot of minerals, it has a lot of fiber, has a lot of antioxidants. And then on the inside, you have the endosperm. The endosperm is the middle layer, and this layer is mostly carbohydrates. Now inside of that, you have the germ. The germ is the innermost layer of the grain, and it is packed with nutrients. It has a ton of vitamins and minerals, it has a lot of healthy fats, and it has a lot of protein. Now, when you talk about a whole grain or whole wheat, it has all 3 of these parts of the grain. So you're eating a whole food. Now, a refined grain, on the other hand, only has 1 of these 3 parts. It has the endosperm. And that's pretty much the most unhealthy part of the grain. You know, a good rule of thumb is if you're eating a whole real food, then it's generally going to be safe. A lot of our diet has gotten away from this. A lot of our diet has gotten into these refined carbohydrates where you're just kind of isolating one part of the grain, or even egg whites where you're taking away the egg yolk and you're only eating the egg white. There's a ton of different examples of this, but this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest flaws in our diet, where we're isolating certain parts of our diet and we're not eating whole foods anymore. So if you want to eat some bread or some rice or some other grains, you want to make sure you're sticking with the entire grain. So things like whole wheat bread or brown rice are great choices. And these whole grains have even been shown to lower rates for diabetes, for high blood pressure, and even heart disease. So the second thing on my list is avocados. When you look at avocados, you think, how can they possibly be healthy because they're so delicious? And they're also so fatty. Now, first off, just because something is fatty, it doesn't make it unhealthy. Our body needs fats to survive. But also, avocados are full of a bunch of healthy fats. And they also have a bunch of other nutrients. They have a lot of protein, they have a lot of fiber, they have a lot of vitamins and minerals. And the cool thing about avocados is a lot of the nutrients you get in an avocado are a lot of the stuff people normally lack in their diet. So there was a study and they found that about 1/3 of Americans are deficient in at least 1 vitamin. You know, I wasn't too surprised when I saw that statistic because when you look at the things that most Americans are eating and you look at the nutrients that we need to survive, you can see why a lot of Americans are lacking in their nutrients and why so many people need to take a multivitamin pill to make up for their lack of nutrients. But like I said, it's much better to get these nutrients from whole, actual foods rather than resorting to a pill. And you know, at first it would seem hard to get these different foods that have all these different nutrients. Like, how can I make sure I'm getting every single nutrient I need? But really, it's not that hard to get a variety of nutrients in your diet. Just a lot of people are resorting to these simple fast foods that are super quick and easy and super unhealthy for you, and that's part of the problem. So the third thing on my list is fish. So my favorite personal fish is salmon. You get a ton of healthy fats, you get a bunch of good nutrients in it. But the key with eating fish is you want to make sure you're eating wild fish and not farmed fish. Now you might be wondering, what's the difference between eating a fish that was in the wild versus a fish that was farmed? Well, the simple explanation is a wild fish is going to eat a much more natural diet compared to a farmed fish. So fish generally will eat other fish. That's their natural diet. But a farmed fish generally will not eat that. They'll eat a lot more GMO heavy foods, they'll eat a lot more grains, and they'll generally just have a much less natural diet. And one thing you'll notice is a difference in color between wild fish and farmed fish too. Now, one thing a lot of farmed fish also have been getting in their diet is vegetable oils. So farmed fish will have a lot more of these omega-6 fatty acids compared to their omega-3 fatty acids. So you might be wondering, what's the big deal, right? These omega-6 and omega-3, they're both good for us, right? Well, humans have always had this ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids. So normally our ratio has been 1-to-1. For every omega-6 fatty acid that we get another omega-3 fatty acid. But in the last century, with all these vegetable oils that have come in the market and all these different fast foods that have come in, our ratio is no longer 1-to-1. And some studies are even showing that it's as high as 20-to-1. And some are even showing higher than that. And the reason is these vegetable oils have a lot more omega-6 fatty acids than omega-3 fatty acids. Now, the problem with this ratio being off and having so much more omega-6 is this omega-6 is very inflammatory. It causes a ton of inflammation in our body. And again, in the last century, when you look at this spike of vegetable oils, you'll see a spike in people getting obesity or becoming overweight. Again, it all has to go with eating whole foods. If you're looking at a vegetable oil, that's not a natural source of food. A vegetable oil will generally take oil from the seeds in these different plants. And normally those seeds don't hold that much oil. So you're gonna have to go through a ton of different plants to get this vegetable oil. Now that is not natural. So this is why if you want to eat natural and more healthy, you should always stick with wild fish, because wild fish are not going to be eating these vegetable oils and these other grains and these other non-natural foods. They'll be eating what they always ate. So the next thing on my list is oranges. So this one's pretty simple. Oranges are a fruit. Fruits are healthy, so obviously you should eat them. But the cool thing about oranges is, aside from their fiber, they also have a lot of vitamin C. So vitamin C is very important. For one, it's very important for our collagen. So our collagen is what keeps our skin, our nails, our hair looking healthy, and it also keeps our joints healthy. And also it can prevent us from getting sick. Do you ever wonder why when people are about to get sick, they drink an emergency, which is basically just a bunch of vitamin C? Well, the reason is vitamin C helps our immune system. So instead of, again, taking vitamin C pills, you can start eating more oranges. So the next thing I have is another fruit, bananas. So bananas also have a ton of fiber, a ton of different nutrients, and they also have a lot of antioxidants. Now we hear antioxidants all the time. What does that really mean? Well, an antioxidant is basically going to protect all the cells in your body, because what can happen is if you don't have antioxidants, you can have oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is when you have these free radicals roaming around in your body. When you think of free radicals, just think of these bad guys that are trying to damage our cells. So these free radicals will start to damage our cells, and that's called oxidative stress. So these antioxidants can fight off these free radicals and prevent this oxidative stress on our cells and basically keep our cells healthy. Another cool thing bananas have is potassium. And potassium is very important for our heart, particularly regulating our blood pressure. So a lot of people do not get enough potassium in their diet. But if you simply add a banana every day to your diet, this can fix that. Now you might be worried about getting an insulin spike or a glucose spike because of the carbs in a banana. But there's a little trick you can do with eating bananas to prevent that. So instead of eating a fully ripe banana, you can try eating a banana that has a little bit of green in it. So a not fully ripe banana. These bananas that have a little bit of green have more resistant starch. And studies show that eating this resistant starch, like a banana that has a little bit of green in it, can actually improve your insulin sensitivity. Basically, that means that your body will respond better to insulin. And this is the problem that a lot of diabetics or pre-diabetics have. Now, if you don't have an insulin sensitivity problem, don't worry about this. Just eat bananas and be happy. Now, the next thing on my list is eggs. So eggs are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. That means calorie for calorie, they have more nutrients than almost any other food on the planet. Now, the other cool thing about eating eggs, Now, specifically, I'm talking about both the egg white and the egg yolk. You can't separate them. The cool thing is you get all 9 essential amino acids when you eat an egg. So these essential amino acids are what our body cannot make on our own. So we have to get them in our diet. Well, you get them all by eating an egg. So when you talk about eating complete proteins, it doesn't get much better than eggs. Now, a lot of people are a little worried about eating eggs, and specifically the egg yolk, because of the cholesterol. Now, I get it. You don't want to spike your cholesterol, so if you eat something that has more cholesterol in it, that could be a little scary. But there's a difference between the cholesterol that's in your body and the cholesterol that's in your food. And the American Heart Association even came out and they said that your dietary cholesterol does not play a role in heart disease, and it does not raise your cholesterol. So the cholesterol that you get from your diet is different from the total cholesterol that's in your blood. Now, the next thing on my list is almonds. So almonds are basically a superfood. They have a lot of protein, they have a lot of fiber, they have a lot of healthy fats, they have a lot of antioxidants, and they also have vitamin E. So vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin, but it's also an antioxidant. So again, when you think of an antioxidant, just basically think it's protecting all the cells in your body. And studies are linking eating more vitamin E with lower rates of heart disease, lower rates of cancer, and lower rates of Alzheimer's. And there's also studies showing that eating more almonds can lower your LDL, or your quote-unquote bad cholesterol. So I'm not a big meal of snacking. I generally think if you eat 2 to 3 meals at separate points in the day, that you should be fine. But I make an exception with almonds because this is one of the foods where it's pretty healthy to snack on them. And the reason is almonds don't really spike your glucose or your insulin. So a lot of people who snack on like chips or other carb-heavy foods throughout the day, they don't give their insulin time to come down and go back to a normal level. And this is what can cause insulin resistance and lead to someone getting diabetes or pre-diabetes. But with almonds, you don't really get that insulin spike. So if you eat it throughout the day, it's not really going to affect you so much, and you're going to get a ton of benefits. And also with almonds, you can mix them in with a lot of different foods. For example, if you're eating a salad, you can throw it on top of your salad. And this actually brings me to my next point, which is salads. So salads are probably the easiest way, other than cooking them, to get a lot of healthy greens in your diet. So I'm not going to bore you with all the benefits you get from eating healthy or leafy greens. That's pretty obvious. But the cool thing about salads is they don't have to be disgusting. And actually, you can mix all the stuff I talked about into a salad and make it a healthy, delicious salad. And I can actually say I've seen every single one of these foods in a salad. Probably not all at the same time, but that doesn't mean you can't mix all these foods all at once and eat them for lunch. I mean, hey, I'd be down to try it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked that video, and if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below. I will see you in the next video.